Hello. In this DotLoop Minutes, we're going to look at some different ways for you to help keep your files, your loops organized, so we can better find, all of us can better find the paperwork within each loop, within each folder that we're looking at. So we have our loop here, and I created this loop using a template. We have different templates for different situations. So this would be a resale listing template, and you can see when you create this loop, it starts you off with different folders. The legal research folder is going to be blank when you first begin. That's waiting on you to upload your research documents. So copy the deed, tax bill, real list, previous MLS, plat, covenants, all that good stuff can all go in the legal research folder. Resale listing forms come with documents ready for you to use. So our various listing documents ready for you to fill in and either send for signatures or print out to take for wet signatures. Pending and negotiation folders is blank at first. Again, waiting on you to upload when you get that offer in, it's here for that. Miscellaneous forms is going to have various documents that you may not use for every transaction. You may not use much at all, but just kind of some of the more commonly used ones. Understanding every transaction is different. So most of this, a lot of this you may not use. You're never going to use all in one in the same transaction, but just trying to make it easier to find certain documents when needed. Closing folder starts off with your blank commission worksheet. Real estate closing information. This is to gather sellers and buyers information for the attorney. Knowing that most attorneys use their own seller buyer info sheets, but should you come across an attorney that doesn't, then you certainly can use this. And then the communication folder, again, starts out blank, waiting on you to upload your emails, texts, whatever communications are applicable to this transaction. Notice when I click on this, click on it, not only does it open and close, but you see this little line that kind of goes away and appears. When you see that line, think of this as just a manila envelope. So when you see this line, that's just telling you that this manila envelope is open and these are the documents within that. If you don't want to look at this, and you can close it knowing they're not going anywhere, but they're just not right there for us to see. So if we look at just a few things, I'm going to start with my legal research folder, and I've already done some research, so I've already put some information in here. And when I look at my listing resale forms, for whatever reason, I have the tax bill and the deed in the resale listing forms. And I think it would better be in the legal research folder because that was information we found when we were researching the property. So the easiest way to move documents from form to or folder to folder is to drag and drop the folder. So if I move my mouse over to the tax bill and then hold, you can see I can drag it anywhere within this folder. And I also have the ability to drag it to the legal research folder. Same thing with deed. Click and hold and drag it to wherever you want to go. I'm not letting go of my mouse until I have that deed where it wants to go. So that's one way we can better keep our loops organized, is keeping the applicable paperwork in the appropriate folder. Just makes it easier for everybody to find when we're looking for certain documents. Another suggestion, if you have scanned something from the copier, it's going to come in and we scan it from the copier and then we browsed it or we emailed it to ourselves and then did the email function. That was discussed in a previous DotLoop minute. So you're welcome to go back and catch that video. But then we have a document in our loop now, in our folder now, that based on the number that the copier assigns when it scans it, I don't know what this is. I know that this is my signed working with real estate agent disclosure, for example. Or let's use something else. Let's use the seller estimated net worksheet, for example. So I completed the seller estimated net sheet, and then I printed it out and I took it to my people and we went over it in person, and then I had them sign it. I came back to the office and then we scanned it in. So now I'm going to have two. I'm going to have the one that they didn't sign, and I'm going to have the one signed. And of course, the one that signed is the one that matters. So the first thing I want to do is rename it so we all know what this is going forward. My three action dots on the right here, one of my option here is to rename. So now I can call this seller net worksheet or whatever you like to call it. Now that I know what it is, I can see that I have two. I have the one that we started that's not signed, and then the one that we just loaded that is signed. You may want to consider doing away with the one that we're not going to use, just keeping what we have. So you have a couple options here. We can always rename this document. So my three action dots over here to the right, again, one of those options is to rename, and I can just say do not use. That tells everybody this is the seller net worksheet that we're not going to use. Some documents, agents have the permission to archive. Now, you do not have the permission to archive required documents. So, for example, the listing agreement or the working with real estate agent disclosure, you're not going to be able to archive that. So, do not use is the best you can do. You may want to drag and drop it to the bottom of your loop so it's out of your way and you don't have to worry with it. Seller estimated net sheet is an example of one that agents can archive. If you have the ability to archive it, your three action dots on the right, and then you can archive. Remembering there is no delete in DotLoop. So it's going to be here forever. Everything you've ever archived will be here under show archived. You can always unarchive it if you realize later that you need it. But now all I'm looking at when I come to this loop is that seller net worksheet. My pending and negotiations folder again is empty because I haven't gotten an offer yet. A couple things here. Because this is a listing loop, this is empty. So you're a listing agent. You may get multiple offers. Remember, commission rule says we have to keep it all. We retain all records, and that does include rejected offers. So you may want to use the pending and negotiations folder for the accepted offer. And then a suggestion would be to add a folder and just name it rejected offers and load those ones that the seller didn't accept in there when you're done. As we did with the forms, trying to get everything out of our way, you could always just drag and drop and move this to the bottom so it's not up front and center every time you come in. Miscellaneous forms, again, documents you may use in some transactions, may not use in others, certainly not all of them. So you always may still need to add a document from the templates. And remember, all in-car documents are in 2024, 2025 in-car interactive documents. So whatever it is you're looking for that isn't here, you can always find there. But let's say, for example, you're working on this listing and it was built prior to 1978, so we know we need the lead-based paint. You're welcome to leave it in the miscellaneous folder, but I think most of the time, once we get what we need from the miscellaneous folder, we're kind of done with it. So you may want to consider just dragging. Again, I'm just clicking and holding and dragging, and I can bring this up to my reseal folder, I plop it in so it's there. And now that I'm done with the miscellaneous folder, I got all I need from it for now. So I can close the little manila envelope. I can even drag it to the bottom so it's out of my way. Let's see. Rejected offers. So I think the only other thing, again, we want to make this easy. So depending on what stage where you are in the transaction, you may want to consider, like, we've listed it. Now we have offers coming in. So maybe I just drag this folder to the top because I know this is where I'm going to be working as I get that offer in, as we accept it, as we go under contract and we start working through the transaction. I know I'm going to be adding stuff to it. So then it would be, on the top where I see that first. We're getting awfully close to closing. So I know my closing paperwork's going to be coming in. So maybe I just drag and drop that to the top. Nothing's going away. I'm just rearranging. So the current phase of the loop is what I'm looking at right now. The other thing that came up in our DotLoop minutes the other day about this, we are looking at a listing folder. So let's say pending and negotiation folders, and let's just pretend we have the contract, all the contract paperwork loaded in here. And for whatever reason, this buyer terminates. We can simply come over to our 3 action dots, rename this terminated, and then we know this is the folder that we're not going to use. Another offer comes in, we can rename this, add a folder up here, and then we can rename it, new offer, or, Smith's offer, or whatever it is you want to call it. If we were pretending for just a second that we were working in a buyer loop, when you click on the pending and negotiations, there's going to be documents in here. Where'd it go? There's going to be documents in here because with the buyer loop, we need that contract paperwork. So you're going to have the offer to purchase and contract. And remember, it doesn't say terminated. We just added that. But you're going to have your contract paperwork. So let's say this buyer's offer gets rejected, or we do get them under contract and they terminate. Again, just rename it. 3 action dots over here, rename it, call it terminated or rejected, whatever it is. You can move it to the bottom if you need to, so it's not in your way. Now you're with this buyer and you have, they find another property that they want to make an offer on. So now we can just add a new folder, call it offer for new property, 345 Elm Street. And then you'll have to go to templates and you would have to populate the documents. You only get the documents the first time when you create it. So now you'd have to go through, I need 2T, I need, agreement to additional provisions addendum, for example. You would have to come through the NCAR interactive forms and get what you need to copy it over and create that new folder within this loop so you can write that offer for the buyer, another offer for the buyer. This goes back to our whole idea of trying to keep everything for this buyer, this transaction, the seller or buyer in the same loop. So rejected offers, offers that are accepted that terminate, you may find yourself creating new folders, adding a folder, and then adding the applicable paperwork. If you're ever in that situation and you need help, all you have to do is reach out to one of us. We'll be happy to walk you through. We could do a Google Meets, and we could kind of walk you through that. But just kind of showing you how we can keep these things better organized so we know where the documents is, so you know where the documents are. And then each folder has a very specific purpose. So making sure we're naming those appropriately so all involved can find them easily. That was this DotLoop Minute. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.